Hello and welcome back to the Dugout podcast. I'm your host, Alexander Cruikshanks, and welcome to episode 32. Can't believe it, it's flying in. I'm joined by Ethan Barlow again today. Laurie couldn't make it again, but he's still behind the scenes doing all the editing for us, so he's still hard at work. But Ethan, good to have you on, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, good. I think that's us out of the kind of sort of hectic period of Scottish football for the season. I think it'll be more sort of the kind of back to the Saturday games for the most part. But yeah, I'm doing well. How's yourself?
Aye, not bad, not bad. Been a bit disappointed with how Rangers have followed up after that incredible victory over Celtic. Um, we're just 11 days on as we're recording this, and they're further behind than before that game. So it's not great. So we'll quickly run through the fixtures. Our plan kind of today is to look at the weekend, and obviously there were some midweek games last week. And we also maybe want to have a look at some transfers, some rumours, and just sort of discuss that. And maybe me and Ethan can discuss what we think our clubs will need in this January window. We're nearly halfway through it. It's flown in quickly, hasn't it?
Yeah, not many rumours for the Glasgow sides anyway in terms of incomings. But yeah, I'm sure they'll kind of heat up as we get into the last week and on
Yeah.
deadline day. Although January's never as the same as the sort of summer window. But anyway, hopefully some exciting things anyway.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Right, okay, we'll kick it off with Kilmarnock versus Motherwell. Quite a big game. It ended a 0-0 draw. I don't think there's really a lot to say about this game. A couple of top performers, I'd say, in it. Lewis Mayo with a beautiful piece of skill that's been doing the rounds. But, you know, not a great result for either. Not a great result if you watched it. But, yeah, I don't really have much else to say about that game.
No, not really. I think as you said, probably not the best game of football. I think there's another game which we'll get onto, which wasn't the
Not
best
have
either.
barely
But
anything to say about that game either.
yeah, but as you said, Lewis Mayo's piece of skill nutmeg on Andy Halliday was probably the highlight. Some soccer AM kind of showboat stuff. But yeah, I think Kelly had most of the play in the game, and they'll probably feel a wee bit unlucky that they didn't take
Yeah, I
3
think they
points.
had like two expected goals or something. It was unfortunate. But Laurie did mention that neither team were good, so maybe the stats don't tell the whole story.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It's- Sorry, I
so
was just going to say we'll get on to the weekend's result, but it's been a sort of a tricky spell for Motherwell. I think Stuart Kettlewell was in the stands for this one. He was serving a touchline ban. But yeah, the only really main talking point was probably Brad Lyon's goal, which was obviously chopped off. Annoyingly, I imagine for Kilmarnock fans, as it looked like he was in space where you sort of he shouldn't have been offside. Either Fraser Murray should have delayed the pass a little bit, or Brad Lyon should have held his run a little bit. But it was a good finish regardless. But unfortunate for Kilmarnock and maybe fortunate for Motherwell that they scrape a point from that one. But
yeah,
yeah, decent form from Kilmarnock at home again. I think there's 4 home clean sheets in the last 5. So they're making Rugby Park quite a fortress this season, which will help them if they're going for that top 6 places.
yeah, definitely. Right, we'll move on to Celtic and Dundee United. A lot of good play in the first half from Celtic. Obviously, they got their one goal advantage. But in the second half, Dundee United came into it a little bit, had some really, really good chances. Um, is it Will Ferry? I was
Yes,
I always
I
want to
think it
call
is.
him Simon Ferry for some reason. I don't know who that is, but
Uh, that's Simon Ferry.
oh yeah, forgot about him.
Just
Oh,
no one calls him Simon.
yeah,
Uh,
sorry, yes, Sai. got a bit confused there. Si Caesar, sorry, I know I interviewed you, but yeah, Will Ferry was the standout for me. I think Sam Dalby made a big difference when he came on, although he maybe should have got on the end of, I think it was that ball, and he just missed it. And then Celtic went up and got their second, some really nice play in the build up. Paulo Bernardo, I don't think he really touched. I don't think he touched the ball, but
Yeah.
what he did was really good. Sort of putting off the man at the back post and then the dummy, and it was a nice finish. And Celtic got the 2-0 win. Um, you know, I think I think the main thing we're seeing is, I think we have seen for a few weeks, the Celtic's performance levels aren't what they've come used to, but they're getting the job done, and that's what champions do.
Yeah, I think the performance levels aren't the same as the sort of ones at the start of the season. You think of that sort of post or pre, sorry, Dortmund match, the Aberdeen and the cup semi final, the Leipzig game. The Leipzig game's highs of a season that will be hard to reach over multiple seasons. So it's always going to be a sort of drop off, but the performances haven't been the most convincing, but I think it was a solid performance. Dundee United, as you said, they made a game of it, and credit to them, because I think Jim Goodwin had kind of, looking at his starting lineup, had kind of maybe written the game off as a sort of rest period. He didn't start Ryan Strain, Kevin Holt, Lucas Stevenson, or Sam Dalby, so kind of shows that he went into the game trying to rest these players for sort of games that he looked at maybe more realistic chances of points, but he's seen that at 1-0 they were still well within the game, and they brought them on, and they nearly did nick a goal, as you said, with that Sam Dalby one. But it was never really too threatening for Celtic, just a few nervy.
No, it wasn't like Dundee United were passing rings around them, but they were fighting for it, and you know, I think they did threaten a little bit, but it's not like they were just knocking on the door. And Kasper Schmeichel saved like 50 shots. So he did have a couple of good saves though, and they did make a game of it, but Celtic soaked up that pressure and went up and finished the job.
Yeah, two good finishes from the Japanese duo. Maeda obviously started, he scores. Hatate comes off the bench, he scores. And yeah, I think the other talking point was maybe in Brendan Rodgers' lineup. He obviously kept the same lineup that fell under a bit of criticism from the Celtic Park crowd, which he responded to. He also wasn't happy with Kieran Tierney, the chance of Kieran Tierney. And the Celtic fans, the Green Brigade and the boys fan group anyway, went through all of the ex-players' songs, probably taking the mick out of Brendan Rodgers a little bit, but I think he's seen the funny side of it. But yeah, no real much else to speak about on this game. Probably the only other one was maybe Nicholas Kuhn picked up an injury in the warm-up and missed out,
And he
which
was
meant
out at the
Yang,
weekend as well, wasn't he?
yeah, he was out at the weekend, as were pretty much all of the Celtic wingers, but it's helped Yang flourish into more games starting more games. The other thing, maybe Greg Taylor hitting his 200th appearance for Celtic, which is a pretty impressive achievement
Yeah,
um,
well done to
for
Greg
them.
Taylor, and I think that just shows. I think we spoke about it the other week, just the great sort of servant he's been. And a lot of people, I think, misconstrue the meaning of a servant to the club. They maybe think it's a guy that's been, on the bench or whatever, or he's been cutting about for 10 years. Greg Taylor has been there a good while, but for the past, don't know, since Ange came in, so coming up for 4 or 5 years, he's been the man. He's been the main man at the left back position. So it's a great achievement for him, and I'm sure he's happy. But yeah, not much else to cover about that game. Just another win for Celtic, and they continue on their champions path. Now on to the second disappointment of the week for Rangers. Another poor away performance to Dundee. The first half was absolutely dreadful. obviously Adewumi. Is it Adewumi?
Yeah, Adam Wimmy, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Sometimes I'm confused like whether I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Adewumi with the opening goal, some really poor defending, just a nice cutback and finish for Dundee, and then maybe a penalty shout. Clinton Enciala looks to maybe stand on Simon Murray's foot, but Rangers go up. It's a great ball from Liam Kelly. Hamza Agaman shows the awareness to pick out Vaslav Cherny, who finishes it, and that's one each. And Rangers did come into the game in the second half, but Dundee still had their chances. Adewumi for me was man of the match. He was excellent up and down the park, and he was just electric. Liam Donnelly as well. I think he's on loan from Nottingham Forest. Was really really good at the back for Dundee, and the problems just continue for Rangers. It just looked flat. And why does it take to the second half, especially in away games, or it take or like I don't know it it's been a theme. Although we did go 2-0 up against Hibs, but and let them back in. But it seems to be a theme so far in away games. It takes us going down, or going down a goal or two to actually kick into gear. Because a lot of the away performances and when Rangers have gone down have actually been good, but they can't put it together for 90 minutes, and they didn't get that winning goal that they so desperately needed. There was chances. Diamande hit the framework of the goal, the corner, with a really, really good effort, just swerving. But they didn't hit the back of the net, and it's another really poor performance from Rangers, and it's 15 points now, the gap. So they've given Celtic a bigger lead than before they beat them in that old firm match. So yeah, really disappointing for Rangers.
Yeah, definitely. You sort of wonder when this sort of away kind of, I don't know what you would even call it, just stretch of away games where Rangers just can't find anything. It's been the whole of the season domestically. I mean, the stats are there. I think it's the worst away start to a season in 19 years for Rangers, which is quite the um, quite the feat. And I think I was showing you earlier the sort of win percentage of Rangers managers, and Philip Clement has the best home win percentage of any Rangers manager in domestic football. So it shows that at home in Ibrox, as we'll get on to, Rangers are doing all they can pretty much, but it's just that the away from home results just haven't been good enough, and that's why they're not in the title race at the moment. But credit to Dundee. I know Rangers obviously missing a lot of key players, but so were Dundee. I think they had 10 first team players missing. They had to throw the likes of Aaron Donnelly in from Forest.
Oh, Aaron Donnelly. Sorry, I called him Liam.
Or did you?
Yeah, mistake there.
Yeah. I think they got him. I think that they got him on that permanent from Forest. Actually, I tweeted
Really?
out. I tweeted out on the Dugout Twitter that it was a loan, but I misread it. It's actually they got him on a permanent. He was on loan at them last season, and then they also had to throw in for the first time Cesar Garza, the Mexican 19-year-old midfielder.
He's 19.
Yeah, it was his first start for Dundee.
Oh, he doesn't look it. Oh, I can't say much. I'm 19. Oh, don't really think.
Well, I didn't. I didn't watch the game, so I didn't really get to see it. But yeah, from looking at the stats in the first half, it looked like Dundee were the kind of dominant force. The second half, maybe you think when Rangers get that goal back with Vasav Cherny, good work from again Rangers to shining lights. I know we always go on about it, but Cherny and Igamani,
They are players. They're good players. Yeah.
yeah, they sort of combined for the goal, which, as you said, Inciala on his Rangers debut, and I think it's his professional debut. Obviously made that challenge on Simon Murray, which I think could have been given as a penalty, but play was played on, and as Tony Docherty, I think, said in the post-match, these players didn't react and they were punished.
Well, it's
But
what
as you
you
said,
taught from when you start, very young, play to the whistle.
yeah,
They didn't.
yeah, definitely. And I think, as you said, Adewumi looked good. He has looked good in moments. Obviously, they got him from an Austrian team, I believe, in one of the lower divisions. But he's only young, so he is going to have his moments where he's on and off, he's hot or cold. He's unlucky with that second goal that just gets ruled out for offside. Don't know if he was offside or Simon Murray was offside or both of them were offside.
I think it might have been Simon Murray just off.
Yeah, yeah. I think Adewumi might have been off as well. It was very close.
I thought
But yeah,
NCR was lucky because
yeah,
he kind of, I think he lost Simon Murray and then tried to step out, and he was really lucky that it was ruled out, and he was just offside. So, but yeah, it's really disappointing. As you said, worst away record in 19 years. I just don't know what, because of the home. You mentioned the stats, best home win percentage, the same home record as Celtic. I think they've conceded a couple more goals and obviously scored less. But you look at the home form table; they're tied on points. In the away one, they're third. But there's only 13 points. Celtic obviously have the maximum of 28. But it's I think that just speaks to how poor the rest of the league is as well. The fact that Rangers are third in that table, but um, it is really disappointing, and I don't know what 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 to look for. Like, because it's just really confusing. Because I don't think I'm probably going to get slaughtered for this, but I don't think Philippe Clement's the problem. Surely, like if you have that good a home record, what are the players doing when they think they're going to a different dimension or something, or but did they not get enough sleep on the bus or the plane or whatever they do? It's weird as well. Rangers under Philippe Clement are undefeated in Europe away from home, strangely enough. So what's the thing with Scotland? Or do they just, I don't know, it just takes them a while to kick in, and by that time it's usually too late. Just the Motherwell and St Mirren, they looked like they were going to get back, and then St Mirren scored late on, and Hibs, they let them back into the game. Then they took the lead again, and then Hibs equalised. So it was some really poor defending from Rangers. And there was some poor defending, even though they won at the weekend, there was some poor defending for the St Johnstone goal as well. So, yeah, hey ho, it is what it is. It's just kind of washing over me at this point. Um, and I think Rangers, what they need to do is look to the Cups and look to Europe, try and get some prize money from the Europa League, try and put together a half decent run, at least get past that round of 16. If they qualify top 8, get to the quarters, maybe go a little further. But that's a big stretch considering just the squad right now. And yeah, but we'll move on to the weekend. We'll go. Where will we go? Will we just move on to Rangers versus St Johnstone and work back, or?
I was thinking of just starting from Saturday early, Dingwall,
Okay,
going, I don't know, sort of
right. So
front to back almost.
yeah, okay, fine. So Celtic 4-1 away win against Ross County on a frozen pitch. The conditions did not look fun to play in up there, but they got the job done. Kyogo opens the scoring. It's a good finish from him. Ross County get a penalty in the second half, a fairly clear penalty. There was arguments for a red card. I'm not sure. I guess if the way you want to argue it is he's denying a goal scoring opportunity, he's just shoved him in the back. But I don't think it's enough. I just think it's a cynical challenge. But it's not a red card in my opinion. But Ross County, couldn't hold on in the game. It was I think it was Kyogo's second goal, was it? That gave them the leader in the 80th minute. A nice header. I think the goalkeeper's unlucky. I'm forgetting his name now.
Amissa.
Sorry?
Jordan Amissa.
Oh, yeah,
Jordan
Jordan Amissa. Well, I think you told me a pretty amazing stat about Jordan Amissa.
Yeah, I think that's only 5 games he's played for Ross County. I know he was released from Sheffield United a few seasons ago, but Ross County picked him up on a free, and he's been brilliant for Ross County. I think he's conceded 10.34 expected goals in those 5 games, but he's only conceded 7 goals. So if you do the maths, he's prevented over 3 goals, in 5 games. And I think there's only 3 goalkeepers in the league that have prevented more goals than him. And he's only played 5 games. So shows how good he's been. A lot of sort of praise for him after the Celtic game. A lot of Celtic fans picked him out. He probably was one of the candidates for man of the match, even though they conceded 4 goals. Probably shows how good a game he had. And it's really good for him because he was. I think he suffered some terrible racial abuse in the last week or so, and I think this Ross County fans had a minute's applause for him on the 18th minute, his shirt number. So that was good to sort of get in support of their player because it's not nice, especially when you've just came to a sort of new environment.
Imagine walking into your office and you've had a bad day at the office and you walk out and there's someone on the street shouting abuse at you because you've don't know, done something. It's his job, you know. I know people get passionate about football, but it's no excuse to do anything like that, to racially abuse someone. So it is disgusting. It's good to see that he's got support around him for that. Right, so a couple of, I think we'll merge this. Real Hatate had a penalty shout that I think was rightly not given. I think he dived, but he didn't really climb for it, so don't know. But yeah, he's been at the heart of a few VAR controversies that this season, where he probably should have been sent off against Kilmarnock for a shocking challenge on Liam Donnelly. But Ethan, I'm just doing this to wind up Ethan, because if you remember, he disagreed. But so I don't think it's a penalty, and I think they made the right decision with that one, Ethan.
Yeah, I agree. A dive, calling him saying he took a dive, I think it's a bit harsh. I think there is contact, not enough for a penalty. Not every contact's a penalty. I think you've got to remember sometimes that we are playing a contact sport, and there is contact that stops a player from getting to the ball or stops a player from doing a shot, and there's contact that's brushing a player, which is not enough. You need to be a little bit stronger than that, I think, if you're Real Hatate. I wouldn't say dive, though. I think that's a bit harsh. And I think it was very similar to one which you're probably going to get onto in a minute.
Well, the Yang incident.
Yeah.
Don't know. This one for me is a bit, could go either way, but I feel like James Brown's just shielded the ball really well there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think he goes to kind of stamp his leg across or put his leg across Yang to get in front of the ball and put his body in front. What else is he meant to do? He doesn't do anything. He makes contact with Yang. Of course he does, but it's as I said, it's a contact sport. There's going to be contact. Yang kind of goes over softly, and McDermott goes to the VAR. He's originally not given a penalty. He goes to the VAR, and he must be standing at the monitor for a good few minutes. So I don't see what's clear and obvious about that to overrule that and turn it into a penalty. If it was so clear and obvious, he would have not looked at the screen, went, all right, okay, I've made an error here. He would have changed it, but it wasn't clear and obvious. And I think Don Cowie made that point after the game.
I think that specific rule as well was actually, changed. Rangers were on the end of an incident like that in Europe, where Alfredo Morelos nipped in front of Emre Can against Borussia Dortmund, and put his foot in front of the ball, and Chan kind of kicks him and falls over, and that was given as a foul. But in past years after that game, I'd seen an instance like that, and I was speaking to my dad, and I was like, Dad, how come they're not fouls in the one, blah, blah, blah. And he was going, well, I actually read somewhere it was a rule change, and I searched that myself, and yeah, and it's not foul. And I think James Brown's been really hard done by, because it's a good bit of defending. This might sound like a bitter Rangers fan, but I I'm I feel like on here I'm quite impartial, and I do call things the way I see them. So, and I think it's unfortunate. I'd put it this way: I'd be raging if that was given against me.
Yeah, I know I would be as well, and I think watching the game, it's almost one that even as a fan of the club who's on the receiving end of the penalty, you're a bit like, come on, it's not really a penalty. I think I didn't really give my thoughts on the Johnston one, but I thought my first look, I thought it was soft, but you can clearly see Johnston shoves him in the back, and that one is a clear penalty. Hatate one, not a penalty. Yang one, maybe more of a penalty, but still not a penalty, and definitely not a clear and obvious error if that's the meaning of why VR intervenes, and it is. So, yeah.
So, Arnott Engels steps up, Jordan Amissa saves it, but it's retaken because he's clearly off his line, which is, unfortunate for him. Arnott Engels steps up again and dispatches it, but he still goes the right way and nearly gets there, Jordan Amissa. So I don't think you can really take much away from him in that scenario. Celtic go 3-1 up. Arnott Engels in his celebration starts shushing the crowd. Maybe a bit of a statement from him, because he's come under some criticism, but he has been playing quite well recently. And then obviously Luke McCowan, chocolate bar, gets the fourth, and he looked like he really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, Luke McCowan always enjoys scoring for Celtic. As a Celtic fan, you would do. But as you said on Arnott Engels, I think whether that sort of shushing was to the goalkeeper or to the Celtic fans, you could probably apply it in both ways. I think he has received some harsh criticism from the Celtic fans. He's still young, and you can see the sort of quality he brings to Celtic. He's on all the set pieces, the corners, the free kicks, the penalties. He's not let Celtic down from the spot so far this season since he's been taking them. That's the closest he's came, obviously. But yeah, his end product, his crossing is absolutely brilliant. Some of the best I've ever seen at Celtic. And you can tell that he's going to be a player that will develop at Parkhead. 6 goals this season, 5 of them have been penalties, 9 assists. I don't think he gets credited for the...
Arne Tavernier.
What is it?
Arne Tavernier.
Yeah, Arne Tavernier, yeah. You could say that. He is very similar. He's got that sort of cross that from the right-hand side, especially where you're deep and you whip it in. And yeah, he's a brilliant crosser of the ball. But yeah, I think he's sort of adjusted now, and he's sort of really getting into the feel of it in Glasgow, and nailing himself down in that starting 11. But yeah, I thought he was brilliant again. And Celtic were good. They had that sort of sticky spell at the start of the second half where Ross County came into the game. They obviously get that well-earned penalty. John White dispatches it well. I think Ian Crocker said he's a Rangers fan. So
yeah, I was about to say he would have enjoyed that one.
Yeah, he would have.
He actually, during the COVID season, he actually scored the goal that led to them beating Celtic. That subsequently got Neil Lennon the sack. So I think he enjoyed that one as well. So, but obviously it's not the result he would have wanted in the end. John
Yeah,
White's been one that's just been about for a while. He's never really double digits, but he does a job, doesn't he? So
oh, definitely. And I think he has a pretty good scoring record against both Celtic and Rangers. I can remember him scoring goals against both. But yeah, for Ross County, I don't think we'll get on to St Johnstone, but I don't think there's any concerns this season for Ross County. Don Cowy's doing a really good job.
Johnston are terrible.
Yeah, we'll get yeah. But Ross County, I think that was their first loss in
I
five
think
games.
I think that's our the dugout stinker call for the season. You know,
Yeah,
no, they look all right. You know, they've got players there, but
yeah.
they're bad.
They do have players in the attacking areas, but yeah, but Ross County, they've been good recently, and it took Celtic huffing and puffing to sort of overturn them. And Celtic got the first away win in 4 games, so Celtic not exactly hitting the heights away from home either, but a good win. And I thought,
Right, so
um,
4 games. So they lost the Rangers. They drew with Dundee United.
Andrew with Dinamo Zagreb.
Drew with Dinamo Zagreb. Right, okay.
I think that was the last 3 away games anyway, unless I'm missing
Oh,
something.
you've had quite a lot at home recently.
Yeah, yeah, really a lot of home. And
That
Rangers
makes
have
sense.
obviously had
Rangers
a lot
great
away.
run.
Yeah, but yeah, I think the sort of blessing in disguise maybe for this game. Obviously, you mentioned Kuhn was out, Dyson Maeda also out with an injury. Lewis Palmer was out with family bereavement. Brendan Rodgers said, and James Forrest obviously been out for a while now. That injury left Yang the only winger, so Kyogo sort of took up the mantle as a right winger, although he wasn't really a right winger. He was on a sort of free roam where he could drop into different spaces, and it benefited him a lot and probably benefited Celtic a lot.
Yeah.
Kyogo, as we know, is on his day one of the best players in Scotland. We've not really seen that much this season. He's been limited, very limited to his touches. And if you're getting him on the ball, you see for the Yang penalty or not, it's a great ball from Kyogo.
Yeah.
2 good finishes, and it's something for Brendan Rodgers to think about in the
Yeah.
future.
10 goals for him in the league this season. He's joint top scorer with Sam Dolby, closely followed by Nicholas Kuhn and Vaslav Cherny, both on 9. Yeah, Kyogo back in the goals and a good away win for Celtic. All right, so moving on to the rest of Saturday's games. We've got 2 more. We've got Hibs versus Motherwell. Um, Pretty dominant display by Hibs, actually, which we've not said a lot this season, but they're on a good run now. A 3-1 win over Motherwell. Martin Boyle getting 2 goals. Triantis with another goal. Really good finish from him. Just driving. No one closing him down. And it is a really, really good finish. Martin Boyle, obviously, with the opening goal and the penalty. Motherwell hit back at 2-0 down with a nice free kick from Callum Slattery, but it wasn't enough in the end. And Stephen O'Donnell sent off for a cynical challenge on Martin Boyle while Hibs were on the break. Ethan, if you're a Hibs fan, you wouldn't have
Did
expected.
you say? Sorry, did you say Stephen O'Donnell there?
Was it not Stephen O'Donnell?
No, it was Jack Vale.
Oh my God.
It was Stephen O'Donnell gave away the penalty.
Do you know what I've got mixed up by? The,
Oh,
the on the highlights when they show the player going like that.
yeah.
Mixed up by that. Uh,
Oh,
God. But yeah, Jack Vale gets sent off with a cynical challenge on Martin Boyle. Ethan, if you're a Hibs fan, you're really enjoying life right now. It wasn't a great start, but they've clawed their way back.
yeah, I don't think many could have seen this coming. When it got to the real low of David Gray's tenure, when Hibs released that statement, and we all thought that he was going to be a goner. But well, they've reaped the dividends of keeping him. Just the one loss in the last 10 games, unbeaten in 7, after that 3-0 loss at Celtic Park, which was that one loss. And contrasting, Motherwell have just won one game in the last 7. So it's a great start to the season. It's turned a little bit sour for Stuart Kettlewell, but Hibs, as you said, dominated, especially in the first half. Motherwell didn't even have a shot at goal, or didn't even have a shot in general. Second half, Motherwell came into a bit, but they left it a bit too late. Maybe the only thing downside for Hibs was Nicky Cadden coming off after 19 minutes. He's obviously been, you would maybe even say, their star player this season, along with Martin Boyle, who's picked up the form recently. But Jordan Abita comes on for him and he sets up the first goal. I know it takes a deflection off Kofi Bauman, I think it is. But he puts it on a plate for Boyle, who's really come into form as of late. In back-to-back games, he scored 2 goals. Yeah, and he's on a good run for the second goal. Don't really know what Motherwell are doing. Archie Mayer was in goals. I think it was his Motherwell debut. I'm guessing Oxborough must have been injured. Ewan Wilson sort of lets the ball run across him, and as you said, Triantis pounces on it well and makes a good run up the right hand side and finishes well. And yeah, and it only gets worse for Motherwell. Paul McGinn, he's kind of been hit by injuries this season. He comes back from the injury he suffered in October, and then he has to come off. So another defender injured, one on each side. As you said, it's a good free kick from Callum Saturday, but I think Hibs goalkeeper John Smith, you think he has to do? Do you think he has to do better, Alex? Would you say?
I don't know, because it is a really nice finish. I think he's maybe stepping over for the near post, well, to the free kick taker. It's normally that's how they go. Maybe he should do better because it wasn't the quickest. There wasn't a lot of pace on the strike. But it was a nice finish. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I think if you're going, oh, he has to do better, you're being a bit harsh
yeah.
on him and taking a bit away from Callum Slattery. But maybe
No, no.
he should be saving it. But
Yeah.
yeah, don't know.
Yeah, it's a habit for keepers just to kind of cover even the side behind the wall because you expect them to go there. But Slattery does well; he catches him off guard. His first goal of the season, and it's his first sort of set of matches of the season. He only returned from injury at the start of the month. But as you said, Martin Boyle's free kick, I think it was from the right hand side, which was claimed by Archie Mayer. But Stephen O'Donnell, much like Alistair Johnston, loses his man at the back post, quite cynically brings him down, and it's a deserved penalty in the end. Yeah, and a clear penalty and a yellow card there. Martin Boyle, the same as he did against Rangers, kind of no really any finesse, you could say, just smashes it. Sort of down the middle of the goal, and it works for him. So,
I think that's the best way to take a penalty.
yeah,
Is
possibly.
if you try to place it, there's a good chance the keeper will guess the right way and save it. So,
Yeah, you seen with Kai Havertz yesterday, he tried to obviously place it, and it was
Martin
saved.
Odegaard as well.
Yeah, Martin Odegaard as well, where Martin Boyle 2 for 2. And I think he's had more penalties, but the other two that are in recent memory. But yeah, another good win. Sorry, for Hibs, and they keep going. They've got Martin Boyle playing some back in he's playing some good football. Obviously, he's the man they rely on for the sort of goals. That's them up to 10 now for the season. And as you said, I don't think Jack Vale can have really any complaints for his challenge on Boyle. It was quite a really poor challenge, a striker's tackle, you could say. But yeah, just a silly one when the game's already gone in the 93rd minute. It was a really daft from Vale. But yeah, brilliant for Hibs. Worrying for Motherwell. Is Motherwell still in the top 6? Hibs just moved into the top 6. But with the way Motherwell are going in the competition for places, you can maybe see Motherwell dropping out of the top
Yeah.
6.
Well, Hibs up there now, just 6 points behind Aberdeen, which is so weird. Um, you know, uh, think about in November they were level with Celtic. Now they're 25 points behind them, which is kind of crazy. Dundee United in that third place position, but it is a good win for Hibs. And yeah, and Motherwell in trouble. I they look like they are missing Lennon Miller, but it looks like the squad is suffering from the injury issues, but also it looks like they're not really putting on the effort. Of course, they do it against Rangers, but but yeah, it's not been too great for them
Yeah,
of recent times.
yeah. I was just gonna jump in there about your point about effort. I mean, the Jack Vale challenge is just, I think, the perfect example of that. I don't know if it's a head loss, but it seems like it's just lazy. He can get back and make a challenge on Boyle. He chose to try and win the ball from behind him. He's never going to win the ball, and he gets a deserved red card. And Motherwell, yeah, they'll need to be a lot better. I know they're without their star man, um, and that injury might benefit Motherwell in the fact that they might be able to keep him beyond January, but. Yeah, it's not looking good for Motherwell. But Hibs, you've got to say, they have been very impressive recently. They did always have the players, you would say, but they just needed to put it together under David
Yeah,
Gray. They
I
have.
remember when we played against them at Ibrox, and obviously Rangers weren't super great either. But looking at some of them, I'm thinking these lot are better than what their kind of performances they're sort of turning out. So, um, really, I don't know. It's just kind of nice to see.
Yeah,
No matter
one
what
of
your
the
feelings are on Hibs,
yeah
they're putting it together, and
yeah
and they're really, pushing now for that top six position. And I'd say they look the most likely of the chasing pack so far. Um, right, we'll move on to St Mirren versus Dundee United, a 1-0 win away from home for Dundee United. Say this game was fairly evenly balanced, a lot of chances at both ends. Obviously, Olisanya missing, well, having his penalty saved from the spot by Jack Walton. Uh, Poor penalty from Olisanya. Another one that tried to place it. And it was saved. A good save by Jack Walton. The story of this game is Louis Moult with an overhead kick to get the win, and you could see what it meant to them and the fans, celebrating with the crowd again. They had those scenes in the Dundee Derby. It just seems like they're really together this season. Them and the support, and they're enjoying themselves.
yeah. They have got a really good sort of squad on their hands. Maybe that helps them going late into games, deep into games. You've got players like Louis Milk coming off the bench who can nick in with the goals. He obviously got 20 last season, I think, in the Championship, but obviously playing a more reserved role this season. But you've seen, as we mentioned, they went to Celtic Park with a rotated lineup and gave Celtic a really tough time of it. And yeah, again, I don't think they played their best in Paisley, because I think St Mirren probably will feel they should have even won the game. Olasanya comes off the bench, he has that big one-on-one chance, which is saved by Walton, and then obviously has his penalty saved as well. But yeah, St Mirren were completely on top in the first half, but Dundee United came back in the second half, and they just took their chance, and that's what Dundee United have been doing this season. They've got obviously the joint top scorer in the league, which obviously helps, but they've also got players like Louis Moult who have competed for that mantle in the past. But yeah, really good goal. One of the goals of the season. You would say at the time, of the maybe not as good as Akil Wright's,
No, for me, that's
but
still clear.
but yeah, but in the kind of circumstances of the game, a really good goal. and worrying for St Mirren. 4 losses on the bounce, only scored in one of those games. And you think back to that period where they beat Rangers, it was 3 wins on the bounce. It was looking up for Stephen Robinson, but it's not looking too good at the moment. They're down in 7th, but you still back them to be in that mix. But Dundee United, they obviously lost those games against Hearts and Celtic, but another win, and they look like the team you would back for. You put your money on for to secure third place. Although things can change very quickly in this league, as we've seen with Aberdeen, the obvious candidates for that.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't know. I like Dundee United as well. It's another one that's just nice to watch. And they're a big side as well. They've always got a full support, home and away, near enough. So yeah, it is one of these ones where you just like to see, and maybe bringing back the days of not quite as much quality, but the likes of Gary Mackay-Steven and Stuart Armstrong and Nadir Chifchi, who are lighting up the league. What is it? Nearly 10 years ago now, but
Over 10, no, yeah, over 10 years ago, I think.
over 10 years ago. But
Yeah,
it is another one that's nice to see. Right, moving on to Sunday's games. We'll go through the Boarfest. Aberdeen nil, Hearts nil. That's maybe the feelings we have in this game.
yeah,
Penalty at
yeah.
the end that was
Yeah,
saved.
there's not really much, as you said, in this game. Two teams that probably would have needed wins. Aberdeen, I think this is now the longest run without a win
11.
domestically since 2011, which is just crazy. Like, you couldn't believe how bad they are now, and you couldn't believe how good they were earlier in the season. It's really strange how contrasting their season's been. And you really kind of hope that they pull it together, because it is getting quite ugly and sad for Aberdeen, really, because they are gonna keep dropping places if they don't start picking up points, because all the teams below them will start picking up points. Maybe Bar and St Johnstone, and we'll get on to them. But Hearts as well needing wins. Yeah, not really great. Aberdeen were the better team in the first half. Hearts the better team in the second. Obviously, the penalties saved by George Grant's penalty saved. And yeah, just not really much to say on this.
No. We'll move
Yeah,
on.
yeah, possibly move on. Yeah, there's
Sorry if
really
you
not much
wanted
to
some
say.
in-depth analysis on that, but there
Yeah,
just isn't a lot.
yeah. Dundee and Kilmarnock. That game that was played quite a while ago is why they didn't play this weekend. That deserved as much analysis this week as this one did. Yeah, really not great. And I think Liam McLeod said it was the most boring game he's ever watched. So yeah, that probably puts into perspective what actually went on at Pittodrie. But yeah, these two teams can put on exciting displays, but they haven't recently, and their fan bases will expect better in the future.
Definitely. Right, now on to Ibrox. We'll talk about the game, but then we'll obviously talk about the big story coming out of Ibrox after the weekend. A lot of controversy around that one. But we'll talk about the game. Rangers 3, St Johnstone 1. Rangers' first half performance was pretty good. Hamza Igaban with the opening goal. Rangers capitalising off a St Johnstone mistake, taking the quick throw, some nice play. And Igaman notches his 8th in the SPFL and his 12th for the season in 24 appearances in all competitions. I think he's got 12 goals and 3 assists,
Yeah,
which is
certainly.
really, really impressive from him. I might be a bit of a funny cut here after talking about Hamza Agaman, but had to go and take care of something. So I think I was just mentioning about his goals and assist tally this season is really impressive. It's already his highest scoring season in professional football, which is impressive from him. The second goal comes from Václav Černý, a ball over the top. He's done that a couple of times. He's beat the offside trap really well a couple of times this season, and you think he's maybe going to chip the keeper or open up like he usually does, but he just stabs it past the goalkeeper for 2-0. The third goal, ball in. Jack Sanders with a lovely little headed layoff for Mohamed Diamande to head it home for 3-0 to Rangers going into the half. Really pleased. I didn't see the first half because I was at work. I tuned in for the second half, unfortunately, which was absolutely dreadful. St Johnstone get the goal back, some poor defending, but from there on in, it was just nothing really to talk about. The St Johnstone got forward a couple of times. Rangers had a couple of chances. Dessert had a couple of chances. Who's really poor again. Maybe we'll talk about that in our transfer portion of this episode. But yeah, 3-1 win for Rangers. The Ibrox home form continues. Ethan, well, before we dive into the main talking point, that's not really related to the football. It is related to the football, but it's not about what happened on the pitch. What did you make of this?
Yeah, business as usual at home for Rangers. I think if you had handed Rangers fans 31 points from 33 at home, to beat Celtic 3-0 at home and to concede the little amount of goals Rangers have, you probably would have snapped, Rangers fans probably would have snapped your hand off. But it just shows how poor their away form. I know I keep going on about it, but this was a solid performance from Rangers, especially in the first half. Some really nice football. The first goal, especially, they punished St Johnstone and Igaman with another goal. He always seems to be involved in the goals at the minute. And then his partner in crime, Czerny, gets on to the act. As you said, he looks like he's offside, but he's timed his run perfectly, as he did against, I think it was Dundee, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he puts it past Andrew Fisher, who made his debut for St Johnstone, one of their new recruits. Obviously not the best game for him, but I don't think he could do anything about any of the goals particularly. But then the third goal, as you said, Jack Sanders, just a horror show from him. Tries to clear it, or I don't really know what he's trying to do, but Diamande punishes him, and then Jack Sanders does get a good connection in that the same penalty area this time to put it in. So at least he gets a little bit back. But yeah, it's really worrying for St Johnstone. No wins, no win in the last 9 games, 1 win in the last 14. 9 points at the bottom now, and it's looking really, really likely that they're going to go down. They're a really poor team, in all honesty, and the only probably shining light is Mackenzie Kirk, who was back in the team yesterday. He missed the last 2 through injury, but yeah, it's really worrying for St Johnstone. But another positive home result for Rangers, and something that Philip Clement will be hoping to build on this time around. It's not happened often. But he's got another home game against a struggling Aberdeen where he'll hope to win. And as I mentioned, that's the best home win percentage domestically for any Rangers manager. So you would back Rangers to win that one. But yeah, a solid performance before any of the sort of negatives come in. The conceding the goal was followed by, I'm sure you can explain what happened and what you think about it as a sort of Rangers fan.
Yeah, so there was a 55th minute walkout staged by the Union Bears. They displayed a number of banners during the game calling out the club's leadership, and basically said the fans' loyalty is not an excuse for them to not go up to the standards. It was met by a lot of booing. Personally, and I don't really feel one way or another about the matter. I wouldn't have walked out if I was there, but you know, they can do what they want with they pay the money. If they want to try and get to the board this way, they can. If they want to, you know, it's their opinion and they're entitled to their opinion as a supporter of the football club. So yeah, um, they can do what they like. And I know that sounds like a sitting on the fence kind of answer, but that's honestly the way I feel about it. Um, Strangely enough, but you know, there was a tweet by them today that more protests will follow. So I'm assuming we'll see something against Aberdeen on Wednesday. I'll be at that game. So you know, you can get my live my reaction to it when I've done it. So I'm not going to do a live reaction in the stadium, but yeah, should be interesting to see what unfolds. Um, Patrick Stewart did his press conference on Saturday, basically saying Philip Clement will stay. He's got the full backing of the board, and Rangers will bring in one, maybe two players this transfer window. But other than that, there's not really much to say. So I think I've said this before. Back to the pitch, it's frustrating because you can see they've got good players there. Igaman, Cherny, Raskin, uh, Danilo's a decent player. Haji's a decent player. Diamandi is a good player as well. The defence is one that's lacking. Although I'm a bit confused. Robin Proper played on Sunday, didn't he?
Yeah.
I thought he'd be serving a suspension.
Yeah, he never did serve that suspension, which apparently he was getting. Because it was Dundee where he picked, was it no, it wasn't Dundee, it was the game before Dundee, it was Hibs where
Hibs.
he picked up the yellow card. And it said on Sky Sports, maybe the coverage of Sky Sports Scottish football not the most reliable as we've seen in the past. But they said he was suspended for the Dundee game. He obviously wasn't. Um, and then he's not suspended for this game either, so maybe he just wasn't suspended at all. But yeah, to speak quickly on the Union Bears sort of protest, I think, um, as you said, they're entitled to do what they want. They pay their money for the tickets, and the same for the other fans that left the stadium. But it's always, I know from Celtic's sort of Green Brigade sort of scenario around the sort of Palestine flags and stuff like that, where there was a bit of disagreement from the board and the or the club even and the supporters group. It causes a bit of a rift in the club, and it's never nice. And it's not something that Philip Clement and his players will want to deal with. It's something they're going to have to deal with. They're obviously way behind what the fans expect of them. But I think I've differed on this podcast before about whether I think Clement's the right man to take Rangers forward, and I think I'm going to stick for a while that he is. I think he's shown enough. I think he's got a short he's got a short side of the draw, you could say, with the injuries. And I think he has shown enough that he is probably the right man to take Rangers forward. Sacking him and getting a new manager in is only going to restart this problem. I think Rangers fans need to be patient. I know it's not easy, but they just need to look at the sort of the squad gulf and the financial gulf between the players and the clubs. And you've got to look at what Clement's done, and especially the last two Celtic Rangers games in isolation. Obviously, that's not what dictates a season, but yeah, I think it's difficult for Rangers fans at the moment, but it's going to be difficult. But the board have probably been massively underperforming. And I think they need to get their next few moves very right when it comes to transfers, when it comes to almost everything. There's no margin for error for Rangers at the moment. But yeah, I think that's everything I've got to say on that matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's sort of it for the weekend's fixtures. maybe we could quickly look at some of the transfers. Obviously, Rangers are in dire need of a few. For me, I think prime candidates are a centre back and a left winger. I haven't seen much in the wingers, but for me, for us at centre back, we've been linked with Ekdal from Burnley, 26-year-old Swedish. He's spent the last 3 years at Burnley. He's not made many appearances. I haven't researched him properly, but it looks maybe he's perhaps injury prone, which means Rangers will probably sign him. Because that's the earmark of a Rangers signing. He signed from Diergarden, I think is how you say it, to go to Burnley. And they have a bloated squad, so a loan move is possible for him. There was also a link to a centre back in the Jamaican top division, but I don't really know much about him either. In terms of possible outgoings, I think the main one, Cyril Dessers, a few clubs were linked with him. The fee was quoted at around 4 million, which I'd be fairly pleased with if Rangers could get that for him. But not much to talk about for Rangers in this window.
Yeah, I think the same for Celtic. I don't know if we're waiting for the sort of end of the window to get all the business in. But yeah, Celtic, like Rangers, haven't done much. It's been mostly the talk of outgoings. Stephen Welsh completed a loan, 6 month loan move to KV Mechelen in Belgium. I think he's been linked with that sort of move before. And then in terms of other outgoings, I think Luis Palma has almost completed a move to Rayo Vallecano in La Liga on a loan deal with an option to buy for £2 million. In terms of other outgoings, I can't think of many. In terms of incomings, Celtic have been linked with Norwegian winger Sondre Setter or something like that. I'm not the best at pronouncing Norwegian names. But yeah, he's a 21-year-old winger and he looks like quite an exciting player from Sarpsborg in the Norwegian division. Yeah, but I think he's going to cost about £7 million, which is quite a hefty fee. But yeah, that's what Celtic are looking at. And obviously the obvious Kieran Tierney, which I think will be more a pre-contract agreement for him to join in the summer, as we've seen that sort of develop. The other one, obviously the big news was Kyogo. The MLS website announced him signing for Atlanta, which he obviously hasn't yet, or if he will do. That we're in the dark to that. He certainly didn't look like he had his eyes anywhere else at the weekend, but you never know. In terms of other clubs, I know other clubs have done a bit of business. I think Aberdeen have brought in two signings which played yesterday. I'll have to go and get their names. One of them played under Jimmy Tilleen before. It was the centre half, Christers Tobers, the Latvian. He's the one who hasn't played under Tilleen. They got him from Grasshopper Zurich. The one who did, they started at right wing, Jeppe Ockels on loan from Preston North End, who played with Jimmy Tilleen at Elfsborg. And these are two players that you don't know much about, but you would probably back Jimmy Tilleen to know more about them, being that he was in the sort of managing in that sort of part of the world and obviously managed Ockels previously. In terms of other movement, Dundee have obviously made a few signings. As we mentioned to them already, I think they've went on to make another one. Amari Samuels, I think it is, from Brighton, the left back, on loan. I think in terms of other news, Kilmarnock, I think
Calvin Ramsey.
have all but completed the signing of Calvin Ramsey. Obviously, Scotland, former Aberdeen, now at Liverpool. Hasn't really worked for him down there after leaving Pittodrie for that big fee. But he's going to come back to Scotland, it looks like, and play stuff. Apart from that, I would have to probably look and see what there is. You noticing anything else?
No, I've not really seen anything major for Scotland, but if there is any major developments, best believe we'll be on here talking about it. So if there's any big signings, big outgoings for any club, we'll be on here to discuss it, hopefully with the three of us, because we've missed Laurie these past few weeks.
Yeah,
Good to have
definitely.
him.
I'm just going through the sort of on Footmob, the sort of transfers here. Jamie McCart, former Celtic youth player, has joined Hearts from Rotherham. Robbie Fraser left Rangers to go on loan to
Oh
Livingston.
yeah,
Zach Hemming, we mentioned, joined St Mirren. Another one which I thought was quite interesting. Where is it? Let me find it. Seen it earlier. Liam Boyce leaves Hearts to go to Derry City. Eamon Brophy left Ross County on loan to Falkirk. Archie Mayer, who we mentioned, had that not best debut at Motherwell. He signed from Norwich. I think that's all the sort of concrete done deals. But I think we'll have more as the weeks go on. But yeah, it's been quite quiet in terms of the whole window, not just in Scotland. But
yeah.
hopefully that'll heat up and
Well,
we'll bring it
big signing
into.
outside of Scotland today is Danya Mallon signed for Aston Villa, which I think is a
Yeah,
really good signing. But I think that's the biggest sort of development we've seen across all of football. But we'll hope there's some excitement and we'll be back to discuss it. Thank you to everyone for watching and listening to this episode of The Dugout. Go check out the Twitter at The Dugout 2024. We'll be back next week or perhaps after the games. Just depends on recording schedules for us. But yeah, thank you and goodbye.